Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Sir Adrian Boult, the Warner Classics Edition, the mono recordings, 1920 to 1957, on HMV, Pye Nixa and Parlophone. Now, the Boult discography is rather complicated, and I hope to be able to untangle it, at least to a degree, in talking about this box, which is really fun, by the way. We have to be honest about the quality of the orchestras and whatnot, and we'll get there in a minute. But Boult was, how should we say, he was the consummate professional. That's usually regarded as something bad. I don't think so. I really don't think so. He had no discernible obnoxious mannerisms. He was a musical natural. He just sort of lost himself in the music. It seemed to play itself in his best performances. He may not have been the most thrillingly dynamic conductor out there. He wasn't. But he also was totally uninhibited when it came to orchestral sonority and texture and balances. He was born in 1889. He was a wonderful conductor of that era. You know, he did Wagner, he did Brahms, he did Elgar and Vaughan Williams, who he was friendly with. He left a wonderful legacy of recordings. He basically trained and formalized and standardized and professionalized and founded, kind of, the BBC Symphony. When he was forced into retirement in 1949, he took over the London Philharmonic. He was never a strict disciplinarian. And he was always subject to the circumstances in which he had to operate. So, you know, and the reality is, in this period up through the 1950s, the London orchestras were nothing special. They just weren't. They were okay. You know, you had Thomas Beecham with the Royal Phil doing his thing, and the London Philharmonic, when Boult got it, was never a wonderful orchestra in terms of its, you know, overall corporate sonority and quality and whatnot. They gave lovely performances with him. They did. The LSO was a mess throughout the 50s. I mean, post-war England was a mess in many respects. So you have to be a little indulgent, and we'll see as we go through the box that when he did less proprietary repertoire, things could sound a little weird. I mean, frankly. But again, you know, for people who collect historical recordings, that's not going to matter so much. The other issue that I find sort of fascinating before we go through the box is a lot of this stuff, the English stuff, has been released. Remember these? Previous Adrian Boult edition. There were 4 of these boxes at least, I think. Yeah, 4. But one dedicated to Vaughan Williams, one dedicated to Elgar. These were all of the EMI recordings, not necessarily all the Warner recordings, because this set, the monos, includes HMV, Pye Nixa and Parlophone. He recorded for a bunch of labels, which are now all under the Warner umbrella, so they could be more complete. But the HMV stuff that's in here, even the monos, is also in here. It's in these sets. So there's quite a bit of duplication there in the music for which he's best known. And so you're getting this box for the other stuff, basically. And there's quite a bit of it. I mean, this is, 36 CDs. It's not inconsiderable. But it leads me to wonder whether or not Warner is actually going to do a new Adrian Boult edition, where they put everything together as opposed to these other boxes. I have no idea. You never know what these people are going to come up with. And that would be terribly duplicative. But these other things, I'm sure, are out of print, long out of print. I mean, they're not even Warner. These are EMI, which no longer exists. So it's possible that a new Boult edition is coming, and they're starting at the beginning. Who knows? So with that said, let's go through this and see what we get. The first albums actually are acoustics. The first CD from 1921, 22, somewhere there. You get a little booklet that has a little essay by Tully Potter, somewhat perfunctory, and a listing work list, in case you're curious. So let me just stuff this somewhere. I don't want to put it on the cat over there. Okay, there we go. And we'll take a clump. Let's start with clump number 1 and see what we got, shall we? I mean, some of the repertoire here is marvelous. International repertoire that he never did otherwise. So the acoustics include Tomasini's The Good-Humored Ladies and Respighi's La Boutique Fantasque. Boult was actually hired by Diaghilev to do the Ballet Russe back at this period in the 20s, after he premiered The Planets, in the teens. And so we have some of that repertoire here. Then Humperdinck's Hansel and Gretel orchestral bits, the overture of The Witch's Ride and the Dream pantomime, Butterworth's A Shropshire Lad, Bliss's Rout, Elgar's orchestration of the Funeral March from Chopin's Second Piano Sonata, and Brahms' Tragic Overture, which is rather well recorded for its era. It really is, and it's a passionate performance. It's really, really good. The others are really grotty sounding, and Boult humorously talks about how they, all gathered around the giant acoustic horn, and the tuba player subbed for the double basses, and it was just a mess. Okay, and after that we go to the 30s, and we've got the BBC Symphony, which Boult was engaged to organize and professionalize and musicize, and he did. He really did. We've got Beethoven's Eighth, a lively performance, a very exciting Coriolan, Egmont, Brahms' Hungarian Dances, 3 of those, orchestrated by Dvorak, the Freischütz Overture, and Wagner bits, the Tristan and Isolde, whatever her name was, Prelude to Act 1, Parsifal's Good Friday music, and the Meistersinger Prelude. Boult was always a terrific Wagner conductor. He really was. I mean, that was his era, and it's very good. Then we've got, CD 3, Mozart's Jupiter Symphony. It's fun to hear Mozart and Beethoven from the 30s. We're into electrical recordings, by the way, now of the BBC. The Brahms Piano Concerto No. 1 with Wilhelm Backhaus, kind of a famous recording, and Der Schauspieldirektor Overture by Mozart. Bach Orchestral Suite No. 3. What's this thing here? A violin partita No. 3 in E major, orchestrated by somebody, pick Mangiaglio, the Prelude. Mozart's Così fan tutti, Schumann's Manfred, Mendelssohn, A Midsummer Night's Dream, the Hebrides, Roy Blas. The Hebrides, you hear, he was a more exciting conductor than a lot of people remember him when he was younger, which isn't surprising. He did slow down a bit, although he had an amazing sense of inner timing. He really did. I mean, in most things, he was able to stay within seconds of his earlier recordings. And a lot of things he was. But in other things, he did let himself relax. And then we've got Berlioz's Roman Carnival and the Bacchanal from Samson and Delilah, which has no timpani and steel castanets. I mean, it's the recording. You don't hear things. In the Hebrides Overture, the main tune, da-da-da-da-da, Bob, that thing, kind of gets a little bit lost. And that was an issue of balance, recording balance. I don't think it was Boult's fault at all. Schubert's Great C Major. This was a specialty of his, and he recorded it 3 or 4 times, I think, in his career. Always very well. He really did a good job with it. Here's the Hansel and Gretel stuff again, and Elgar's Prelude to the Dream of Gerontius with the BBC. Let's see. Brahms, Piano Concerto No. 2 with Schnabel. Another famous recording. Oh, my goodness. Otto Nicolai's Merry Wives of Windsor, Suppé's Light Cavalry, and Auber's La Muette de Portici overtures, which go perfectly with Brahms, as you might expect. Elgar, his Enigma variations. Okay, there's 30 performances of this. The introduction at Allegro, Suspiri, then bits of Meyerbeer, Elgar's Imperial March, Walton's Crown Imperial and Portsmouth Point, Thomas Arne's Rule Britannia, God Save the King is in here, the British Grenadiers, and bits by Dame Ethel Smythe. Oh, yes, her Entente Cordiale, the opera, two interlinked French folk melodies, Fête Galante, and The Boatswain's Mate. She probably bullied him into doing it. She was a tough broad. Okay, now let's see. We've got these are all 78s. You get to like LPs and things. Oh my, lots and lots of thingies. All right. Gluck, Alceste Overture. Weber, Oriente, Berlioz, Les Francs-Jeux, and Le Roi Lear, King Lear. He did a lot of Berlioz, actually. Boult did. He's not known for it, but he did the overtures regularly. Tchaikovsky, Eugene Onegin, Bardens, Prince Igor, Paloftsian March, and Sibelius, the Oceanities, Night Ride and Sunrise, the Romance in C major. Boult was a very good Sibelius conductor. It's funny, he didn't do the symphonies, but he did the tone poems, a lot of the tone poems. And, you know, they were coupled. The mono ones were stuck on a Vanguard twofer with a Bravanel's last batch of Sibelius symphonies. And they're good performances. They're just not really competitive because the orchestras aren't great and they're mono. And, you know, so, you know, that's what happens. These are not those, by the way. He redid all that stuff later. Mozart, Concerto for two pianos. Bach, Concerto for two pianos. Tchaikovsky's Serenade for strings with Arthur and Karl Ulrich Schnabel. And the London Symphony and the BBC and the Tchaikovsky. So that's fun. That's entertaining. Bliss, Music for Strings. Elgar, Symphony No. 2 with the BBC. These, I believe, are the 1940s recordings, unless I'm mistaken. Let's see, what have we got here? It's a little bit hard to figure out. Yeah, 44. Wartime, the Wartime recordings, although the earlier ones, 1 through 3, Bliss is 37. But the Elgar was 44, and it's a very, very good performance. Exciting performance. Tchaikovsky, Capriccio Italienne and March Slav. He also did a lot of Tchaikovsky. Boult did. Mozart's Horn Concerto with Aubrey Brain, the dad of Dennis. Symphony No. 32, and Mendelssohn's Overture and Wedding March from A Midsummer Night's Dream. Zippy performances. Let's see, what's this one? CD 12. We're just chugging along here, aren't we? Vaughan Williams, Tallis Fantasia. Oh, we get 100 of these. This is a minute and a half faster than his later version, his last version, let's put it that way, which was very broad and very noble and a little bit lacking, I think, in intensity. Well, here you get the intensity. Butterworth, A Shropshire Lad, Lyudov, Kiki Mora, and the first recording of Job. So it's 1946, and it's typically splendid, but you can hear the somewhat raunchy sounds of, you know, this is with the BBC in places. You know, it's just orchestras got a lot better in the 60s, particularly European orchestras after they recovered from the war and all that. You know, it made a big difference. Parry, Blessed Pair of Sirens. Yes, they're blessed and they're sirens and whatever. Bliss, Piano Concerto. This Solomon, this is a famous performance. It's been reissued a billion times. And The Planets. Oh my goodness, this is with the BBC. This is the BBC Planets, one of the 700 versions of The Planets that Boult did. Let's see here. Beethoven, Piano Concerto No. 3, again with Solomon, another famous performance. Elgar's Cello Concerto with Pablo Casals, and two movements of the Haydn Second Cello Concerto, because Casals quit in the middle of the session, saying for political reasons he could no longer work in Britain. So you only have the first two movements. Yeah. What else do we have here? Oh, Floss Campy by Vaughan Williams with William Primrose, the violist. This is with the Philharmonia, the new Philharmonia. And then after that, let's see, in 1949, he was gone. Boult was out from the BBC. Vaughan Williams Symphony No. 6 with two versions of the scherzo. Boult did the premiere. And Vaughan Williams rewrote the scherzo. So they recorded another one, the new one, which is really cool. You get to compare. The Merry Wives of Windsor Overture, again, and some Brahms bits, Academic Festival, and a couple Hungarian dances. So there you go. That's number 15, 16. Elgar 1. and the Fantasian Fugue in C minor after Bach, which is hilarious and fun. I played it. Oh my goodness, what an insane piece that is. And Handel's Music for the Royal Fireworks, arranged by Hamilton Hardy. So now we're with the London Phil. But in the Pye Nixa recordings, they couldn't be called the London Phil. They had to be called the London Promenade Orchestra. But it was the London Phil. And these are HMVs. So it's, yes, HMV. So it's the London Phil here. But it becomes the Promenade Orchestra for a lot of these recordings. Okay, Vaughan Williams. Some interesting stuff here. A Song of Thanksgiving for soprano, mixed chorus, speaker, organ, and orchestra. Haven't heard that in a while. The Lark Ascending. Oh, God. Elgar's Falstaff. Purcell's Hail, Bright Cecilia. Just a chorus from there. And the Vaughan Williams Serenade to Music, the choral version. Again with the London Phil. Bach. Chausson. Why did I say Bach? I thought I saw Bach. No. Yeah. Bach, double concerto. Is it on here? Yes, it is. No, it's not. That's interesting. Okay, none of the things on the cover are actually on the disc. How's that for? Because it was a Menuhin disc. It wasn't a Boult disc. Chausson Poème. Saint-Saëns, Introduction in Rondo Capriccioso. And the Havanaise, previously unpublished first release with Menuhin, actually. Menuhining. Then the Vaughan Williams Concerto Academico. Yeah, these are all with Menuhin. Bartok Rhapsody No. 2, first release. The Bach Violin Concerto No. 1, which is a first release. And a Vivaldi Concerto. So Menuhin fans will want to spend $1 zillion just to get this. That wasn't in the Menuhin edition, I guess. I should have gone to look. It's over there somewhere. I can't find it. Get to it. Mendelssohn and Sibelius violin concertos with Menuhin, with the Philharmonia and the London Phil. Menuhin at this stage, this is the mid-50s, was having those bow issues, I think. Listening to these, they're not bad, but they're, hardly the best, frankly. Let's see. Elgar, Enigma Variations, and the Wand of Youth Suite and Pomp and Circumstance March No. 3 with the London Phil. Boult always did Elgar splendidly. He recorded it every 15 minutes. Walton, Belshazzar's Feast. Oh, this is a riot. First, you've got Dennis Noble, who's a terrific baritone soloist. But this is one of these up-close, airless recordings with an obviously too small choir. You hear every word, just about, that they're singing. They are straining. Their timbre is kind of iffy. It's really weird. It's a really weird Belshazzar's Feast, but the choir is much louder than the orchestra for the most part. Boult's on top of it, but boy, oh boy, this is grotty sounding. It was from like the 50s. Let me see what the date was of this. 53. Walton must have had a conniption. He was always incensed over the lack of precision and accuracy and whatever in his music because it's very difficult to play well. And Boult did his best, but oh, baby. Then we've got Vaughan Williams, English Folk Song Suite, Norfolk Rhapsody No. 1, Greensleeve Fantasia, and Thomas Tallis again. Then there is Boult's best Brahms cycle. Here they are with the London Promenade Orchestra. Boult recorded the Brahms symphonies in stereo with the London Phil at the end of his career. Sad performances, I thought. They're a little bit slack. Not very, they just needed more rhythm, more discipline. They're just relaxed kind of schmoozies, and we didn't want schmoozies. Well, these are not schmoozies. These are better. They're definitely better. He takes the exposition repeat, the first movement of the Third Symphony, which is quite a thing. And you also get the Haydn variations. There's an unpublished Beethoven First Symphony, which is perfectly fine, an academic festival overture, a tragic overture, which he always did well. And he also did the serenades beautifully. The first serenade he did magnificently late in his life. It's just a pity he couldn't bring the same pizzazz to his late Brahms symphonies, but these are good. The sound it's mono, and very mono. It's not demonstration quality mono. It's a little bit boxy and constricted, let's put it that way. But the performances are fine. And I think his Brahms is important because, you know, I mean, he was a pupil of Hans Sitt and Nickisch, and he knew, you know, I mean, he was of the era, like I said. And I think his Brahms and Wagner is valuable for that reason, even if it's not the most thrilling out there. But these are solid Brahms symphonies. They really are. That gets us up to disc 25. Yay! Mendelssohn, the Scottish, which in those days was called the Scotch. Not anymore. I grew up with it being the Scotch Symphony. That's what I always saw. Then someone yelled at me and said, "No, it's Scottish." I said, okay, all right, it's Scottish. And the Italian with the Philharmonic Promenade Orchestra. And those are good performances. They are, actually. And there's a Schubert Great C Major. Can't have too many of those, can we? Also with the London Phil. This may be his best one, actually. This was recorded in 54 in Walthamstow Town Hall. Mendelssohn Overtures. No, Finster. We're not, wait a minute, we're going to have a, come here. Hi, honey. Come here. Come here. There you go. It's okay. It's okay. Here she is. Could you go over here for now? Thank you. Thank you. I don't want her to stomp on the computer while we're in the middle of this. She has a tendency to do that. Okay. Mendelssohn Overtures, the Hebrides, the beautiful Melusina, Calm Sea and Prosperous Voyage, Roy Bloss, and A Midsummer Night's Dream Overture and Incidental Music. All that stuff is just Boult's meat and potatoes. He does it effortlessly. He really does. They're nice performances. Tchaikovsky, Piano Concerto No. 1 with Paul Bedora Skoda. Delibes Coppelia Suites, Sylvia Suites, and La Source. So there's Delibes stuff. Well, that's fun. I mean, Paul Bedora Skoda's Tchaikovsky is a little bit, I don't know, what would I call it? A little bit brittle. Maybe that's the word. Brittle. Yes, brittle. Soupe Overtures. All the ones you'd ever want to hear. Nicely done. Lots of fun. Okay, here's one of those cases where we find Boult out of his element in international music. I was so looking forward to hearing this. Bartok, music for strings, percussion, and celesta, and the divertimento. Oh, these are bad. Oh, these are so bad. Oh, terrible. I mean, you're wishing him well because he makes them really play it. But, you know, the monosonics, of course, don't help in the music for strings, percussion, and celesta. And the string playing is just scruffy. I mean, just ugly, timbrely, just not there. The divertimento seems like he's rushing. You know, he just is sort of hurrying to get through it. But the music for strings, percussion, and celesta, I mean, the tempos are all basically right. It's sort of okay, but my, oh my, oh my. It's not the sound we want in that music. No, it isn't. Handel stuff. Water Music Suites. Stamitz Symphony. That's fun. A CPE Bach Symphony in F major. Votquin 183 number 3. Mon Cello Concerto Allegro. With who's playing recorder or harpsichord? Oh, William Pleath is the cellist. Haydn, 3 German dances. Well, that's fun. And Johann Christian Bach keyboard concerto in A major, 1 movement of it. Obviously, this was a selection of early music things, the sample. Yeah. Elgar in the South. Well, Boult always did that well. The Nursery Suite and the Robert Simpson Symphony No. 1. Simpson dedicated it to Boult. Boult gave the premiere. Actually, it was in Denmark, but he later recorded it. It's sort of unattractive and uninteresting, I think, today. Some of you have, begged me to talk about Simpson the Symphonist. I don't do it. No. I mean, he had his moments. He did have his moments. The Fourth Symphony is really good by Simpson, and he did dedicate one of them to his gynecologist or his wife's gynecologist or something. I don't know. But they are formulaic and dry. Thank you. Okay, Elgar, 5 Pomp and Circumstance marches, Froissart, Dream Children, and some bits from Beethoven's Ruins of Athens and Hugo Wolf's Italian Serenade. As you might expect, the Elgar things are lovely. Then we've got 2 discs, the last 2 discs. So this is the end. The Tone Poems of Sibelius. Like I said, Boult was a really natural Sibelian. He does these things really well. You've got Ansaga, The Swan of Twinella, Pohjola's Daughter, The Bard, Lemminkainen's Return, Tapiola, The Oceanides, which he does really nicely, Night Ride and Sunrise, Finlandia, and The Tempest. He did Night Ride and Sunrise twice. That's something. Nobody does that twice. So he was really devoted to Sibelius, and I wish he'd been able to remake all this stuff in stereo with a really good orchestra, because that would have been just splendid. But that is the entire pile. All 36 fun-filled CDs. Let me see if I can put them back without making a terrible mess here. There we go. And like I said, interesting stuff for the international repertoire. If you don't have these earlier Boult editions, you'll want it for the Elgar and Vaughan Williams and Holst and British stuff and Butterworth and all those people. And I came away from this really admiring him more than I had previously, and I've always admired him. I mean, he's a fine conductor, but you hear the consistency, the interpretive consistency. You know, whatever the orchestras are, even however limited the sonics, he was always on top of his game, just about, really, astoundingly, and that means something. Consistency over time. It's not something you hear in individual performances, obviously, because you listen to one work and then you listen to the other work, and it's all scattered about. But when you have a box like this that encapsulates, really his entire professional life as a conductor before he was pushed into retirement in 1949, and this goes to 57, you realize that he was a very admirable musician. He really was. He was a force to be reckoned with. And so I'm happy to have this. And you may well be too. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.